What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of talking to a mixed martial artist out of the great state of Minnesota. She is the one and only, the War Machine, Brittany Nieman. Brittany, what's going on?
Hi, not much. Just enjoying the warmth in my house since it's a little chilly out up here in Minnesota. So
Yeah, we are kind of talking on air where, like, you had a kind of weird instance where, it snowed, and then the snow got taken away by sun of some sort, and it's kind of evened itself out.
yeah, we're in that season where it could snow one time and then all of a sudden the sun is out, and that's just how it is right now in Minnesota. So eventually it'll stick and then we'll have to drive in it. But right now it snowed this morning, and then like a few hours later, it looks like fall again. So
That's one way. That at least you guys get seasons out here in California. I got I don't know, maybe I think it was like it's 6 to 8 months of summer, and then we kind of get cold to the 40s, and then we're back up again.
yeah, we definitely have all four: fall, spring, summer, winter. More winter than anything, but but yeah, we have all of them.
No, absolutely. Now, while we're on the topic of Minnesota, right here where I'm at in California, we used to have like fights pretty much every weekend. Sometimes, 2 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, there'd be something 2 hours away, and then come back for a night show. And then everything pretty much dried up as of March. I was actually at the what was supposed to be the weigh-ins for Sean Merriman's Lights Out Extreme Fighting that was supposed to have a show March 13th, Friday, March 13th, and it was the Thursday, I want to say noon local time here, Pacific, and got to the venue and no cage is set up, nothing. And I'm like, what's going on? And I checked their Instagram, and that's when I knew that California pretty much, the state athletic commission had pretty much shut things down for the foreseeable future. So,
Okay.
and then, subsequently all of the gyms kind of closed down. Gyms became like speakeasies where you kind of just hush hush. There would be one light open, So what has been the state of affairs in terms of, getting in conditioning, the gyms and everything, and just kind of the state of affairs there in Minnesota?
So March is when it pretty much shut down. I remember because it was the week of my birthday and I had plans to like have a dinner, go play some pool. And I was like, I'll take this week off of training. And it was that week that it was like, okay, everything's shut down. I had to cancel my birthday plans, and the school, our, jujitsu and MMA school shut down. So around March is when all of that happened for us too. And then in May is when we kind of started to come back, like you said, on the hush hush, really, really small classes. I think I want to say around June-ish is when they started to open up like gyms and stuff like that. But it's still like you have to, there's like a certain amount of people that can only be in there and stuff like that. So we're not fully shut down. It's just we're kind of restricted. So yeah.
No, that's kind of crazy because it's similar, but the one thing that has probably been the worst casualty of everything is grappling kind of sports. So
Yeah.
jujitsu, judo, all that stuff that you can't necessarily train on a bag, and you need somebody
Yeah.
to kind of spar with. That pretty much has gone obsolete in a large
Yeah.
respect.
Well, they're still grappling up here. There's still schools open. They're keeping the sizes smaller, but no one's gotten in trouble that I know of in Minnesota. So we're still doing okay. There's no tournaments going on right now. We're kind of having like a small in-house tournament at our school, but that's just with with ourselves. But there's no big tournament. Like I was supposed to compete, I think it was February, and that's when COVID started kind of, getting to be a concern. And so both of my opponents dropped out, so I didn't get to compete. Yeah, so yeah, I'm still waiting for that organization to have another tournament because they said, oh, when we come back, they didn't reimburse us. They just said you basically can compete. That money will transfer to the next time we come. And who knows when they're coming back. So, and my sponsors paid for that. So I feel bad, like, hey, I need to compete. My sponsors paid for this. So whenever they come back, I'm definitely going to be like, hey, remember me? I didn't get to compete when you guys were here last. So
Yeah, hopefully they honor it. And Jesse Velasquez says secret fight clubs everywhere now. And
yeah,
Rocky Nelson says first rule of Fight Club, you know.
right.
And pretty much jiu-jitsu is illegal. And Jesse is an IFS MMA champion out here in California and a jiu-jitsu purple belt. And I mean, him and his brother are kind of like the twin terrors in terms of just like collecting necks and cashing checks. And there's nowhere for them to play. So
Oh
it's kind of
man,
weird.
come out to Minnesota, find you a school.
Yeah. But I mean, us Californians, we've kind of been branded the scarlet letter in terms of like leaving. Obviously, Joe Rogan's gone to Texas. We're kind of dispersing in unprecedented degree. And it's so funny because like there's kind of been this anti-California stigma around everywhere. But
Yeah.
us here, as we're paying like super exorbitant taxes and all of that jazz and whatever, we're kind of seeing everybody else, and you're like, hey, wait, whoa, what happened?
Yeah. Wow. Well, I feel bad for you guys if there's especially no jujitsu. My goodness. I mean, me and my husband were rolling in our living room for a while when we didn't have it, just to do it. We ended up buying weights, and so now we have kind of a little smaller home gym. But yeah, we couldn't not do anything. It was driving us crazy. So yeah.
And Rocky Nelson wants to know, and you've got a lot of kind of a lot build up since you haven't fought in a while.
I mean, kind of, yeah, I would say so. I mean, being able to still at least do the jujitsu and, some sparring does help, but definitely there's that built up, like, I want to go fully out on somebody. So I would definitely say yes. There's a little bit built up.
Absolutely. So I gotta ask, what we're in the topic of, all things MMA and jiu-jitsu. How did you become first involved with the combat sports lifestyle?
So I always blame my dad. He's a black belt in Taekwondo, and he would take me to all of his practices and his tournaments. And from there, I just wanted to fight. I used to say when I was little, I want to be the first woman to knock out a man in boxing. And my dad would be like, okay. But that started there. And then I met my husband who did MMA before we met. And I was like, hey, I started watching MMA and was like, you can box, you can wrestle, like you can do whatever, So I was like, I want to do this. So he said, okay, let's kind of start training. So he was showing me some stuff on top of what my dad had showed me. And then we found the gym where we're at now, which is the Next Level Combat in Woodbury, Minnesota. So we started training there, and then I took my first fight after I think we were there for like 2 years, and just kept going. So.
Wow. So I mean, if you don't mind me asking, how long was it in between kind of your dad's kind of introduction and to Taekwondo and all things kind of traditional martial arts versus meeting your husband and then seeing MMA? Like, how long was there a gap in between?
A long time, because I'm 29. I'll be 30 in March, and I started when my our first daughter, who's 6 now, she was 1. So 5 years ago is when I really started the actual MMA. I did do a little Kimpo when I was like probably 8, something, So I didn't really do a lot of mixed martial or like anything martial arts when I was little. I was more in track and basketball, like high school sports, which I wish I would have did wrestling. That would have been great. But yeah, so it was a long gap. It was a long gap between starting when I was little with my dad up until when I fought. So I started late. I definitely did start late. So.
And it's weird because I mean, Minnesota has long since been kind of the, a purveyor of high level wrestling. Whether it be the Golden Gophers, the University of
Mm,
Minnesota, which I mean. In terms of alumnus, you've got Shelton Benjamin and Brock Lesnar
right.
as alumnus there. In the pro wrestling sector, I mean, the Vern Gagne's AWA, that was a linchpin, kind of professional wrestling. And Vern Gagne himself was a USA Olympic alternative in terms of wrestling back in like 49. So
Yeah.
it's almost like being a Jackson or an Osmond that doesn't know how to sing or dance, not being, like a combat sports athlete and not
Yeah.
having that wrestling pedigree behind you.
Right.
But I mean, did you think that once you started grappling, that your affinity for it grew?
Oh man. So when we first signed up at Next Level, we call it Next Level for short. It's Next Level Combat is the full name. But when I say Next Level, that's what I mean. So when we started there, I was super excited for Muay Thai because all my life I was a striker. Like I love Taekwondo. I love their kicks. They're super pretty. I don't know about the hands, but the kicks are beautiful. But going to Muay Thai, I'm like, well, we get to add elbows and knees. And then it's like, well, of course, going in if I want to be a cage fighter, I need to have some ground game. So I'm like, okay, we'll throw jujitsu in there just because I need it. Oh my goodness, I fell in love with jujitsu. I would definitely say I am more of a jujitsu person, a grappler, than I am striking. Now I still love. Don't get me wrong. I love hitting people in the face. I love a nice head kick every once in a while, but that grappling it's stolen my heart with the mixed martial arts for sure.
Now, now, in terms of training to having your first fight, you said there was a 2 year period in between. So I mean, did you kind of feel like I'm going to start from the ground up? Yes, I do have this kind of traditional taekwondo background, but I mean, I want to start from the ground up. Was there hesitance from you to take your first fight, or kind of like a coaching kind of ethos? Like, how did that come about?
So I knew for sure I wanted to train for a year in both the Muay Thai and the Jiu-Jitsu before I took any fight. I wasn't one of those kind of crazy, let me just jump into this and do it. Like when I do something, I want to know that I'm good. I want to be confident and not just try it for the heck of it. And we're getting in the cage. Like it's a dangerous sport. So you need to have a little bit of something, and even though I had like the Taekwondo, like I said, I hadn't been training in it all my life. So I still, to me, was just a beginner. So it was about after 2 years, another girl she's no longer at our gym anymore, but when she was there, she took a fight and actually was training. She started training after me. So I kind of, my head was like, well, if she's ready for a fight, maybe I should jump out there now. And so I asked her about fighting, and she was going to be on another card. And so she's like, you want me to see if they want to add you? And I said, yeah, let's do it. So yeah, that kind of sparked me to be like, okay, maybe I should put this to work now.
I think it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Now, Rocky Nelson says, "What is your favorite fight style? Your go-to style in a fight?"
Does he mean like grappling versus striking,
Yeah.
or I mean, honestly, in a fight, I feel like I naturally go to striking, but then when it hits the ground, like in my first fight, I got a rear naked choke. But I would say I definitely have evolved in my grappling since then. But I think I still naturally start off with striking. I'm not just like, okay, I'm going to come and take you down. I just naturally start at striking. And then if I feel like, hey, there's an opening, take you down. But I would also say naturally I'm an aggressor. So I don't know if you meant just style or what, but I am for sure an aggressive fighter. That's
I,
just naturally how I am.
I think it's in terms of you, kind of watching the sport with your husband and seeing him compete. Who were some of the people who influenced you when you started becoming really aware of mixed martial arts?
I would say more of I obviously watched more of the guys. I hadn't really watched many of the girls. But I like the people that tend to mix. They're not orthodox. They kind of mix up. So I like Silva. He does like different weird things. I like Ferguson. They're not your normal just stand there and do things. And the women, I love Holly. I have some things about her as a fan. I'm like, you got to add that into your game. But just those type of, I love the kickers, obviously, but I like the ones that are not orthodox. Like they don't just stand there like a boxer, or they're not just a Muay Thai. They move differently. Their body does things that's like, okay, that's not normally what a fighter moves like, because that's kind of what I do. Like when I do jujitsu, a lot of people say it looks like I'm dancing or I'm doing capoeira, because it's just how I kind of think of it as a dance, and it messes with people because I'm not doing your typical, what everybody does. So I just like the people that kind of take what they know, mix it in, and then make it their own. So
Yeah, I think when you want to be great in any endeavor, it's somebody that doesn't do like the flashiest stuff, but you is able to kind of master the basics and be able to apply it in the best way possible. That fits them and their style and what they feel comfortable with. And then once you have that kind of foundation, then you can do the flashy spinning ish.
right,
Um,
right. I throw those in there every once in a while, but it's not to be flashy. I think my body just naturally can kind of do those weird things or those flashy things because I just kind of let my body, move. I think of like Bruce Lee, just try to move like water. So yeah, I like that kind of mindset.
I mean, it served Bruce well, so and everybody that has kind of been influenced with by him, it served them well too. You'd be hard pressed to say that it didn't work. And Jesse says, you want to be fully prepared. You're smarter than most. I've seen so many people have fought, have never trained, and it's all crazy, and they just get beat up.
Right. Right. That's true. And I don't want to be that person. Like I don't, I know I'm not ever going to get everything right and not have everything perfect. But yeah, I'm not one that just like, hey, just for the heck of it, I'm just going to go in there. It's like, no, I wanted to make sure I had at least the basics. Let me at least have the basics in my muscle memory so that if I do get in a bad position, it looks like I at least did something, I didn't just get mauled to death. But I think I also have a natural fighter instinct and athleticism that helps me in areas where I'm not strong at, that just grit to grind and to get at it kind of helps me with that, with my weaknesses, because I do have many.
I mean, it's worked well. Still, it's worked so good thus far. And especially your love for it, and it's fun because some people, I've seen it where they love to fight, but not so much the training, or the process of it, and there are some, and even in some of the bigger organizations where I mean they're only there in their gym when they've got to fight, and then after
Right.
they might as well be Casper because they ghost.
Right. That's not me. I talk about it all the time. I will do this even when I'm not fighting anymore. If I can be an 80-year-old jujitsu competitor, I'm going to be out there 80 years old competing. That's just, that's how I am. I love this. It's a desire. It's not just to compete. If they never had competitions again, I would still be, practicing because I love that physical training. I love working out, and I love testing my strength when I go to class. So it's something I just love.
No, absolutely. And just as saying, I agree with you, having your own unique style, but nothing wrong, from I guess borrowing from other fighters too, right?
Right. Exactly.
Now it's funny that you mentioned kind of training until you're 80 because at they just recently, because I mean Florida's kind of willy-nilly to a large extent. That's why the first kind of iterations of UFC fights in this kind of COVID era happened down in Florida. WWE and AEW in the pro wrestling kind of world are deemed essential businesses, and all of their tapings have pretty much been in Florida. And so at I think it was Worlds, or there was a big jiu-jitsu competition, and there was literally like the masters division to young at heart ladies, but north of 74, and
Yeah.
they were getting it.
That. It was Guy, right?
Yes.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. I think that's great. it shows that age is nothing but a number, you know. I mean, obviously some people have things that you get older and you can't do everything the way you did when you were younger, but I think it shouldn't be a reason to keep you from doing nothing. So I love seeing that. And that's like the same way with working out, with me being a mom of 3. I love showing like, hey, I can get my guns back, I can get my abs back, it's babies don't ruin your body. They change your body, but they don't ruin it. So I love beating that stereotype of age and, having kids. And it's like, no, I'm still doing this. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And Jesse says it was Pan Am's, and that match was cool. So yes, thank you. Thank you for that. So, I mean, obviously 2020 has been a crazy year, right? But come 2021, let's just say if this year is a wash in terms of competition, whether it be jiu-jitsu or getting back into the cage, where would you kind of like to see yourself come 2021?
So I would definitely like to take a fight sometime in the spring of next year, or March-ish, and then further on. And obviously keep grappling. My ultimate goal, I still want to do some more MMA fights and then see, because I'm going to be 30. I still want, we still want more, my husband, I still want more kids and stuff like that. But I would like to compete in MMA, see how I'm feeling after a few more fights. But jiu-jitsu ultimately is going to be my main focus, where I would like to get big and well known in. And if MMA ends up opening a door that I wasn't expecting, I'll run with it. But definitely, like I said, my heart's falling more and more in love with jiu-jitsu. But I definitely would like to take another fight, a few more fights. So, yeah.
I think it's good, and we've kind of seen it with Daniel Cormier, kind of, having this kind of number in your head or age or what have you. And no matter where you are, it's kind of a motivating factor, because like, if I've got this kind of, like, I don't want to say limiting window of time, but this window of time that I'm giving myself, let me see, like, go kind of full on and then see what happens, and then if it doesn't happen, still I've got this kind of thing, and it's cool because he almost needed his mind intact, because he's making way more money in terms of becoming a commentator with UFC. So you kind of have to have your faculties about you. You can't get all, like, I don't want to see, no disrespect, but I don't want to see like Diego Sanchez at this stage of his career commentate anything, let alone talk.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, no, and for jiu-jitsu, I'll admit, I don't have a number. It's going to be when my body says you're done. So that could be 50, that could be 100. I don't know. Wherever God takes me, I'm not sure. But MMA, I know realistically, that's a hard sport on your body. So I'm not saying that when I'm 40, I can't do it. I don't know, but I just know that it's not something that I would continue on the way I would with jiu-jitsu, just because, again, I want to have a family. I want to keep having kids, and I have to recover in between pregnancies, and you get older, and, so, I mean, I may be a Romero and still looking better than the 20-year-olds at 40. I don't know, but for sure, I have more of a cap for MMA than I do jiu-jitsu, for sure.
Excellent. Now, I gotta ask, the LFA fight, right? So that has, I mean, you went for a Three River, throwdown straight to LFA, big lights, kind of. I mean, was that a thing in your second fight where you're just like, oh my gosh, like this, I got a little bit of the jitters, or were you kind of like, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be, this kind of level of competition?
You know what's funny? I think I was more nervous before the LFA fight than I was for Three Rivers Throwdown. But when I actually got in the cage for Three Rivers Throwdown, I had all the questions that most fighters talk about. Why am I in here? Why am I doing this? I'm never going to do this again. Like, I'm freaking myself out, and then the bell rings and I'm like, it's just me and her. But for the LFA fight, when I went in the cage, I didn't have any nerves. It was the weirdest thing. It's like everything that I felt before that fight was gone. So it was a reverse. It's kind of weird to say that. It still felt like just me and her in there, but I wasn't like scared. I was like, let's go, you know? So I don't know. It's kind of weird. I'm kind of curious how I will feel for the next one. If it's going to be, super nervous before, or once I get in the cage, would I be nervous? I don't know. But yeah, that's comparing the two. That's what I felt. And I was actually a little bit shocked. I was expecting to be more nervous in the cage because it was LFA, because it was a bigger crowd. So yeah, and I was more determined to beat her than I was the first girl. So it was just, I don't know, the nerves went away.
No, absolutely. And I mean, what kind of in the realm of figuring out what the MMA kind of side of your career is going. This is kind of a two-part question. So, one, is there any semblance of like kind of local MMA coming back to the great state of Minnesota, or kind of that Great Lakes territory, whether it be Minnesota, Michigan, Illinois, and then I mean, what was the scene pre-March of that kind of like your rim of the world fight scene, whether it be MMA, jiu-jitsu, or any other striking discipline?
Like, where was I willing to kind of travel? Is that what you're kind of asking?
Well, what was I mean, so here in California, we had like literally a fight every weekend.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what
Yeah.
you're saying. So it wasn't, I don't feel like they were that consistent like that up here, because I feel like there's not that many organizations. So it wasn't like back to back to back like that. But we have, I mean, like the top ones that I can think of is Mystic Lake. And then you have Three Rivers Throwdown, that's getting more popular. There's the North Star Combat, I believe. That's like more. That's where I would actually like my next fight, is to be with them. So if they're listening, I know they had to push their October card. It's October, November into January. So I would want maybe the card after January. I would like to. But yeah, so they haven't had like back to back, but I think Mystic is the biggest one because it's LFA. It's the one that a lot of people, if you want to get your name kind of notice, you go there. But I know Three Rivers Throwdown and North Star Combat, they're kind of popular up here too. So, but there's not that many. There's not that many like that.
And in terms of like when, like I guess a return to normalcy, is it January, kind of first end of the year is when it looks like the athletic commissions and what have you are kind of allowing fights to come back?
It seems more, I feel like it's more springish. There hasn't been like a lot said that I've seen, but it seems like more people are posting more springish stuff. So I'm still, even like with the grappling, I haven't heard really any grappling competitions, other than, like I said, our school is having like a small one with ourselves, but like big grappling that's normally going on, which they're usually like, it's St. Croix Grappling Games, which is in Wisconsin. They have one, I want to say, every 6 months. So there's one in like May, and then there's one in like October, November. I haven't really heard if they're planning to have one next spring or not, and that's a kind of a big one. There's a lot of people that go to that. So yeah, but not a lot is said. I think they're still kind of waiting to see like what can we do, what can't we do, and so yeah, there's not much being said.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I not so much funny, but it's kind of like a wait and see type deal where some states are kind of greenlit the whole thing. We have Florida. I think like Louisiana had Alabama had a couple fights like earlier in the summer, and it looks like Vegas is kind of coming back, slowly but surely. But it's kind of a thing where, like, obviously we all want to be safe, because there's a litany of things, in 2020 that kind of prevent it, so want to make sure everybody's safe, but also part of that safety is kind of being physically active.
Right. And I have to admit, going to jiu-jitsu for as long as we have been and not catching anything, I first give all praises to God for that, because I pray all the time about, hey, cover us. But it has dropped my I don't want to say cautiousness, but my how scared of this I need to be down, because I don't know, but we don't have to get into that.
No, that's fair. That's absolutely fair. And that's kind of it. We're all just kind of trying to figure out
Right.
what this is, how to proceed, and kind of keep each other safe.
Right.
Now there's obviously kind of downtimes, whether it be career wise or I mean the grind, as the young kids say, can be a bit arduous. So I mean, obviously it's a crazy time for everybody, but so I kind of want to find out, like, what are some of the things that you're reading, listening to, watching that kind of keep you motivated, and have your eyes on the prize when things may not be of the best situation.
And you're saying not just fighting, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm very faith-based. I'm a Christian. I put a lot of my worries and cares into God, and I just trust him. I'm one that very much goes with the flow. I try to be smart. I don't just do things and say, okay, God's going to protect me. We still have to be wise, but that's where a lot of my peace comes from during whatever is going on in my life, whether it's COVID, whether it's finances, whether it's whatever. That's where my peace, my joy comes during storms in life, period. I'm actually currently, me and my husband are currently in seminary at Bethel in Minnesota to become chaplains. So a lot of my peace and everything comes from my faith.
Love it, love it. Now, obviously, there are you couldn't be doing the things that you're doing without a litany of supporters, right? So I want to give you some time and take as long as you need to kind of acknowledge the folks that have helped you get to this kind of a season of your life.
Right. Of course, my husband, he's always backed me and supported me through my fight camps. And my next fight camp, I'm actually going to make him be the lead of my training and all of that stuff like that. And of course, my dad, who's the reason why I'm in this, his influence and his support of always being there. And my mom too, and my stepdad, but and my coaches, I have to thank my coaches at Next Level, my teammates who, they're the most friendly, helpful people that are always willing to stay after. They're always willing, hey, let me try this on you and you try this on me. We're always coaching each other. So that's the ones that I would think. And of course, my fight manager and anyone who's been supporting me through social media. I don't like to call people fans. I like to call them my supporters. And that's all really I can think of. I don't have like a big group of people. I like to keep my circle small. I don't trust a lot of people, but yeah. Well, so
it's funny. I think it was Oprah, where Prince, Minnesota native himself, he goes, when asked why do you still stay in Minnesota, and it's like, it's just cold enough to keep the bad people out. So.
Right. Yeah. I like to keep my circle small, so yeah, they're enough. I will say that they're enough. They support and love on me enough that I don't need a big circle. So, but I appreciate all of the love that they give me. They're always there at all of my fights, all of my tournaments, especially my dad and my husband. They're always the loudest. My coaches, so absolutely.
Excellent. Now, for those who haven't supported you yet, where can they find the War Machine on social media?
Instagram is I have Facebook, but I don't really bother with that much anymore. So War Machine 0719 is where you can find me on Instagram. So I post a lot of my fight stuff, family stuff, faith stuff. So if you like any of those things, you'll find me on there.
There it is. So, Brittany, thank you. First and foremost, for taking time out of your busy day to kind of do this, and you can't wait to see what your future in the sport and all things combat sports, whether it be MMA, jiu-jitsu, or family life. what that brings you, you know, and just good skill in all of it.
Well, I really appreciate you having me on here. It was an honor. Anytime someone feels that I'm important enough to interview, I say yes. So thank you so much for having me on.
No, the pleasure's all mine. But thank you guys for watching. This has been According to Woods with the War Machine, Brittany Nieman. And if you haven't already done so, well, you know what? I'm not even going to talk.
Hey, this is Zeta Zhang. Make sure you subscribe to According to